On this episode of Rock School Proprietor Podcast, friend of the show, Sam Reti, returns to talk about tech in music lessons. This time we're talking about his online video lesson platform, Muzie, and why Sam and his company are launching a brand new version. Sam shares why he rebuilt it and the features he's most excited about, and how I think the new MIDI integration could be an absolute game changer for online drum lessons specifically. We also talk about where Sam and I see online music lessons going in the future. Sam is a real forward thinker, so if you teach music lessons online, this conversation will really open your eyes to the new possibilities. Stay tuned. If you're a guitar instructor and you've used one of the dozen or so popular method books, you've probably noticed that gap between what's in the books and what students actually want to learn. Most guitar students want to play their favorite songs, and that means strumming, chord changes, timing. If that stuff is even in those method books, it's usually way in the back. I put together the exercises in Complete Guitar Strumming to cover the foundational concepts that all guitar students need, but in a practical way that applies to their goals, which is playing their favorite songs. For instructors, the book comes with an instructor companion guide that walks you through best practices for teaching. I even have training videos that I've used with my own staff that you can access as well. The guide and the videos are free for anyone who wants to use the book for teaching. If you want to get really deep and understand the origins of the book, you can go listen to episode 50 of this podcast, or just head over to rockschoolproprietor.com/book for all the details. Welcome to Rock School Proprietor Podcast. My name's John Kazicki, and my co-host Mandy York is not with us today, but I have a guest, a returning guest. He is a guitarist and a guitar instructor and a founder in the tech and music lesson space. Previous guests on the podcast, as I mentioned twice, I think we talked about AI and how AI is changing music lessons and will continue to change music lessons. He is the founder and CEO of Hive.io and Muzie.live. Sam Reti, welcome back. How you doing, Sam?
Hey, great. Thanks so much for having me back. Round 3.
Round 3. Yeah, I think you're the first guest to be on the podcast 3 times, I think. Oh, maybe not. Mike Grande might have been on 3 times too. So you and Mike. Yeah, right. So for anyone who has not listened to prior episodes with you or is not familiar with your company, Muzie.live, why don't you give the quick 30-second overview of what Muzie is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Muzie is essentially an online teaching platform. The best simple comparison is Zoom for music teachers. But we've gone quite a bit further, so you could almost now say like Google Classroom for music teachers, where you have a whole suite of tools designed specifically to execute online music lessons, but now in-person and hybrid teaching. So it's grown quite a lot, but the fundamental product is high fidelity audio and video for online music lessons.
Yes, and with that audio, now we're friends, so I know a little bit about this. From is it proprietary sound that you have built into the Muzie platform?
Yeah, this is where Muzie sort of differs from a lot of the other options, specifically in the music space, is as far as I'm aware, we're the only platform that has actually built the entire audio video infrastructure completely from scratch. Mm-hmm. So most platforms utilize like a third-party video conferencing service and then layer on their own tech on top of that, which is completely valid. But Muzie, we go a little deeper because we're kind of, like you said, we're sort of a technology company that happens to just have a passion for music.
Yes.
So we built the whole video conferencing suite completely on our own. And Hive, the other business we have, which we will get into, but we sell that technology to other companies. So we're also a provider of this tech, which is why we're able to sort of have such a granular sort of hold on each piece of the puzzle when it comes to the music and the audio for Muzie.
Right. And as the listeners of this podcast know, and anyone who has ever taught an online music lesson using something like Zoom or Google Meet or anything like that, it is the audio that is always the biggest challenge. So yeah, that's exactly where I think your background in both music and tech really
Yeah.
leverages what you've been able to do with Muzie. So, yeah, you mentioned Hive.io, and again, you shared with me, I think it was like in the last year you launched Hive?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's probably not even a year old. I mean, we sort of did like a slow rollout and then like an official thing. So Hive is kind of that secret project that's actually always been there,
Mhm.
because Hive is the technology that Musi runs on top of.
Yeah,
So the audio video tech that I was just explaining is technically Hive, right? And Hive
yeah,
is it's all the same company, really. Like it's all the same people doing the same stuff.
sure.
So it's just two brand names, mostly for us to keep it simple in our head about what we're talking about. But Hive is both a product and what's called a developer SDK, which is basically a toolkit for companies to take the technology and then put it into their own product. So we do have Hive as a platform, which some music teachers do use. It functions and acts more like Zoom, where you send a meeting link, join a call, and away you go. It's not very specific to music, but because the audio technology is the same that we use in music, it's like literally Zoom with really good audio.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's like if you're really comfortable with Zoom and you just want like a one for one trade off, Hive is kind of a good approximation, where Muzi is more of a very specifically music platform. So yeah, Hive we sell to corporations, to businesses, to sales teams. It's not music specific.
Right, right. But this podcast is music specific.
Right.
So, yeah. And the reason why I wanted to have you back on is really to talk about a brand new version of Muzi. And we were talking just before we hit record. And I said, well, is this Muzi 2.0? And because I think it's important to clarify, what is the difference between this new version and the previous version of Muzi? And you said, well, it's a complete, full rebuild. And I guess first, what was what was the inspiration, or when did you decide, like, you know what, it's time to do this differently?
Yeah, I think every 5 years or so, the technology takes sort of a leap forward.
Yeah,
And it's like a slow burn, but within that 5 years, like you kind of like cars, right? If you have a 2020, it's great. If you have a 2021, there's probably not much difference. But when you jump up to the 2026, you're like, oh, there's a pretty big change now. So it's the tech kind of works in the same way. So for Musi, the last big update we did was probably 2022, where we kind of had I almost think of this as like Muzi 3, because we had the first version of Muzi through the pandemic. Then when that slowed down, we had like a minute to sort of recuperate and
yeah,
do a big update. And then this is because the tech has gone so far, and a lot of that is our work we're doing on Hive, that allows us to experiment with new things. So there's a lot of stuff we did with Hive that we kept saying, man, that would be so good in Muzi. Like that would help so much. That would really improve the product. And it got to a point where we realized it would be more work to retrofit all of that stuff into Muzi than it would be to just build it again.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the irony is, because we run Hive and it has a developer kit that allows you to build products, we literally are using our own developer kit to build the new Muzi. So we kind of have our own, it's like a self-fulfilling cycle.
yeah, yeah,
We're able to build quite quickly because we already have all these, like, you can almost think of it as like Lego bricks that you're kind of just sticking together. And then, of course, we go like another layer deeper and make all of that very specific to music. And honestly, it's 6.5 years old now. And so
mhm,
that 6.5 years of talking to teachers, refining products, building things, and just my knowledge plus the team's knowledge plus the users, it just felt like, okay, now's a good time for us to put out this new thing that is just the best version of what we've always wanted to provide. And it just felt like, yeah, well, we have the time to do it, we have the resources to do it, and the knowledge. Yeah.
so the features, I want to talk about the features, because and you'll have to refresh my memory a little bit on some of those features, but when I looked at Muzi, the old version, There's obviously the stuff that you would expect. There's the video conferencing, and then there's all sorts of tools like I'm a guitar player, so the visual fretboard and the visual piano and the tab tools and the whiteboard that has the notation and all that stuff built in, as well as the creating your own files and library as an instructor so that you can share those with your online students, and everything is sort of self-contained. When you went to rebuild Muzie for this new version, which features or which tools did you decide, okay, we're not going to need these anymore, and which features stayed?
Most things stayed
Okay.
and got a good improvement. There were a couple things though that we kind of just realized no one's using it, or
Hmm.
it's not really being used in the way that it was intended, or it was something we started working on and honestly just never fulfilled the sort of destiny of that feature. Like a good example is we have this notes tool. It's super simple. You open the notes and it's kind of like sticky notes that you can type onto. But the sticky notes are just for the teacher. They're not shared with the student.
Okay.
And it's because there's a whole bunch. You can create assignments, you can chat with your students. There's tons of other ways to share things with your students. Fundamentally, though, we found it to be confusing because it's the only feature on the platform that does not share with your students.
Gotcha.
And people just write notes anywhere that they want to write notes. So it became one of those tools where it's like, I actually think this is not only not useful, but confusing people. And they think that they're sharing them with students when they're not. And that's creating another layer of sort of misunderstanding. So that was one that I was like, just don't do it. We don't.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
funny. I love a sticky note. I
yeah.
love sticky notes. I use them all the time. Right. And I'm a Mac user, and I know that there's
Yeah, there's
the,
literally a sticky note tool, right?
yeah, I don't know if it's still in the latest version of the operating system, but I just never felt comfortable using them
Yeah,
on my actual computers. That's an
exactly.
analog thing. Yeah.
Actually, that's actually probably a good point because if I think about it, I haven't seen the sticky notes in a couple of years, so I'm wondering now if Apple even came to the same conclusion,
Right. Yeah.
which
Who
is,
knows?
you know,
Who knows?
kind of
Yeah.
like a neat concept, but sort of a useless product.
Sure.
Because honestly, I'd rather write on a sticky note myself than have a digital sticky note that then I have to go and find and catalog. And so that's like one simple thing that we got rid of. Another thing is we did these live transcriptions of playing the MIDI instruments,
Yeah.
and we're not that we're not gonna do it, but we're not gonna roll that out in the first version because the original one that we had only supported quarter notes, because it was really complicated to like run a metronome and then calculate the timing that you play. And if you're even off a little bit, then you get all this really messy transcription. And
Yeah.
that in itself was one of those things like it's a cool function, but it's not that practically useful in a lesson to teach someone. And so I think there's a few things we did that were like, that's really neat, but does it actually move the lesson forward?
Mhm.
You can still upload music XML, which we found to be much more useful, right? So,
Uh-huh.
like, after we built sort of the self transcribing thing, we then implemented uploading your own music XML, which you can create on like MuseScore or
Guitar
whatever
Pro.
replaced,
Yeah.
yeah, Guitar
Mhm.
Pro or whatever replaced Finale.
Yeah.
And those are so much better at it. They have the full suite of tools, they have the full integration of all the music notation. So you're better off just making the thing in Guitar Pro and then just uploading it into Muzie than
Yeah.
trying to have like a half-baked Guitar Pro inside of Muzie.
Sure.
So those are kind of things that we realized we don't need to go down that rabbit hole as much. On the flip side, they all got replaced with things that we find to be much more useful and much more practical. So it's a bit of a where do you focus your attention?
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, you end up doing what's called feature creep, which is you just build a lot of stuff. And that's easy to do, especially now when you've got Claude, working as like a co-developer. You can have Claude go
Yes.
build a bunch of widgets, but are those widgets actually like focused on the objective of making a lesson a better experience, or are they just cool widgets to have? You know?
That is, yeah, that is so smart. And I guess I have heard that term feature creep in passing in the past, but it's so smart because I'm kind of a less is more kind of a person because I've definitely seen it work in my own life where when something is like when software is so robust and it has absolutely everything, it's almost crippling. Like where do I start? Or I liken it to maybe the recording process when you're recording a song and recording
Yeah.
music. Yeah, you could, and I my very first recording experience ever was to analog tape.
Right.
So, and an actual studio. So we were limited. We have only this many tracks. So you have to be really smart. And if like 8 of those right off the bat are dedicated to drums, right? Then, you're limited. But in a world where digital audio and the recording process now means you can record as many tracks as possible, there's literally no end to what you can add.
Yeah.
So it takes some self-control and some editing on the spot to understand, well, what do I need and what is adding to this song versus I'm just putting this in for my own entertainment.
Absolutely. I think that's actually a perfect analogy because now you've got, 700 tracks you could build with a million plugins, with every sound profile you could think of. If you don't go in with a strong vision of what
Yeah,
this song is going to be and what this is going to sound like, that's when you find yourself spending a week tinkering with stuff and adding. And then when you come out with that final song, you're like, this is nothing like what I had thought I was going in to create. And software is the same thing. You have to have a really strong mindset of this is what I want. This is how it's going to work. This is what it's going to look like. And this is how we're actually going to do it. And I think that is what the 6.5 years of running Muzie has shown me is that because Muzie is not even my first product. The Muzie is actually my third business. And
uh-huh.
the first couple failed because of feature creep. We had this
Interesting.
like lesson management platform 10 years ago in 2016. And it got so bloated that even I couldn't figure out how to do stuff. And I was the one in charge of designing the product. It's like I knew that things had gone off the rails when we're having a meeting about how to implement birthday tracking. And I was like, okay, hold on. I was like, isn't this a music like management tool? Like what do birthdays have to do with this? But it's like
Sure.
it's you just getting down the rabbit hole. And so there's a lot of self-control to say, man, that is wicked cool, but we don't actually need to do that. And
So, question about that because and I know you're in a unique situation because you come from a guitar background, you teach, so you have that perspective as well as the software perspective. But at this point, I mean, would you say you're more like, do you teach anymore ever?
I'm more software than teaching.
Okay.
So
And
yeah,
that's where I'm going with it, right? So given that you're way more software than teaching,
yeah,
and I'm like with my business, I'm similar, right? I am like I don't teach that much anymore. I don't do
right.
any private lessons. I work with one band a week at this point, right? But with my perspective, I have to still talk with my instructors to understand like what's important to you, where are you at, what is not important to you. And so you not being in that teaching world anymore, how are you determining what is important for the instructor and for the student?
Absolutely. Yeah, it got trickier because I used to use Muzi every single day as a
Yeah.
teacher. And it would be so easy to be like, oh, well, that doesn't work. That doesn't make sense because I'm the one struggling with it. And I kind of joke that, like, maybe 2 years into Muzi, the other teachers surpassed me in that we've now had teachers on Muzi for 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Who have been there the whole time. So we have a pretty good group of of I don't know. Beta testers isn't really even the right word because they're not like they're like foundational users. It's
Yeah.
probably like a better way of describing it. And there's a lot of them. Music's got 30,000 people on the platform, so we've got hundreds of people that I can tap into and say, like, even recently, I did a roundtable with a group of, like, I did maybe 3 or 4 group sessions with users from the platform to sit down and say, okay, here's what I'm thinking. Here's where we're going. What are you guys noticing that I don't see anymore? And what do you? So it's luckily for us, we have a really good relationship with our users. And I
Yeah.
think it's because I handle Musi not like a software company and more like a personal project. And I mean that in that I'm very involved on the out-facing side of the business. Like, I still look at the chat support all the time. I
Yeah.
still field a lot of the requests that come into the business, and I still do most of the demos. So I still keep my hand kind of in there because I need to see, like, if I'm doing a demo with someone, I need to see where they're confused about things. And if I have one of the people on my team do it, like, that's great. They're capable people. But when it comes, like, it's secondhand knowledge when it comes back to me, right?
Yeah.
I take a very hands-on approach to Musi, and I think it is because I have the background as a teacher, and I do still understand a lot about what it's like to run studios and teach and everything. That I am definitely sliding quite far off of that scale now, but because we built these relationships over many, many years, I have a lot of people I can ask questions to, and they will be blunt and they don't have to sugarcoat it because they know that I'm not asking for approval. I'm asking for an actual feedback and opinion. And
Yeah.
I think that's invaluable. Where when I talk to new users, they're just, more often they're just trying to be polite and nicer because they don't, we haven't built that rapport yet. So that core user base that I can rely on to actually give me information is huge.
That's great. And it's interesting because what you just said, it kind of mirrors why I still coach at least one band
Right.
a week in my studio, right? Because for one, I love it. But it's important to me because it's such an integral part of what we do at my music school that it's important to me that I stay as connected to that process and how everything works in it as possible.
Yeah.
And so I will, I mean, for the, foreseeable future,
Yeah.
I don't plan on quitting
Right.
teaching at least one band every week. So, okay, that that really segues into your answer, really segues into the new features that I want to
Mhm.
talk about. So what are the new features that you've decided um, needed to be in this rebuild of Muzi?
Yeah, I think the first thing is not all that flashy or anything, but it's like a fundamental shift. And with Musi currently, the format is you sign up as a teacher, you invite your students to create an account, and then you get linked sort of through the system. And that's really great for sharing resources and all the other things. But there's a little bit of a hurdle to get people in. So the main new thing is link lessons. So like Zoom, like Google Meet, you can create a classroom and then you can share a link to that classroom to anybody that you want to join that class. And it's that simple. It's click the link, join the call. But what's cool is we've been able to, because of Hive, actually, we were able to figure out something that was a fundamental flaw with links. And to me, it's a music lesson is also the 7 days between your next music lesson, right?
Sure.
So one thing I hated about links was you'd do all this stuff in the room. You'd share the link to someone. You'd have a great lesson. But as soon as the call ended, everything was gone. You'd lose your transcripts, or you'd have to download everything like
Yeah.
onto
Yeah.
your personal hard drive and then upload it to Google Drive and then share it across from there. And like, you're creating so much more work for people that sort of, to me, defeats the entire purpose of having like a specialized platform. So one of the cool things is our links are active during the call and after the call. So a student
Nice.
can just click that link anytime and takes them into their classroom. And then inside the classroom, they have the files that you shared, the whiteboard documents, the assignments, the video recordings, the transcripts, the lesson summaries, the polls, the quizzes, all the stuff is there inside that classroom. And all they have to do is click a link. They don't have to sign in. They don't have to worry about anything, and it is a little bit like on you to make sure you're responsibly, handing out links and things as it is with anything else. You can put passwords on rooms so you can lock them and make them more secure. But the point is that you knock down like one of the biggest hurdles, which is having to sign up for another thing. And,
Yes. Yeah.
most people just don't want to do it anymore.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so why make them?
That's great. And so the kind of the abridged version is there's less friction for the student and the parent because again, you're not creating a new account. The reason to have that account in the past was so that yes, after the lesson you could go back and view all the information, but now you've solved that problem too. Just click the link again. That's brilliant. And assuming that these links can be added to, say, a Google Calendar.
Exactly.
Right? That link is still going to be on your Google Calendar a week from now, 2 weeks from now, whenever.
Exactly. And that fundamental shift is going to open up opportunities that we couldn't have before. Like trial lessons are going to become so much easier because you can just share a link to someone, do a trial lesson. If it goes well, it's using the link and away you go. Things like workshops and masterclasses and guest lecturers and things like that become so much easier to do because recitals, like we have a whole recital tool inside Muzie, but it's kind of a pain to use because like you got to get grandma and grandpa all set up on an account or even like a shared account. And there's workarounds, but it's just annoying.
Sure.
Now you can just be like, hey guys, here's the link. Anyone who wants to attend, click the link. And all you have to do is like type your name in so they know who you are and you're in the room. And that hurdle is so much lower that teachers can now, like I said, they can do recitals, master classes. You could do like group practice sessions. You could do webinars. You can do information sessions. Like you can kind of do whatever you want. It breaks down a barrier that, again, we fundamentally believed because when we built it, originally there wasn't this workaround that we had created.
Sure.
It took us years to figure that out, and it's a lot of new technology to be able to do that. But because we can do it now, it's sort of like, why wouldn't we?
Yeah. Okay. Other new features that you've added to Muzie.
I think some of the coolest stuff we're doing is the MIDI stuff.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
I know,
that's what I'm excited to talk about.
This is the fun stuff because this is cool in a few ways. So we've always had a MIDI piano and a MIDI guitar and even a MIDI violin in Muzie.
So, okay, I'm going to break this down though, real basic for anyone who might be lost with the MIDI thing. Yeah. So, MIDI cables, most digital instruments like keyboards, electronic drum sets. There's even MIDI guitars. They have a MIDI cable, right, that you can go out from the instrument and then go directly into a computer.
Yeah. And the cool thing is those MIDI cables over the last couple of years have turned into just USB cables.
Yes.
Because years ago, MIDI was that. I'm sure a few of you will remember the
how many pins?
8 pins, big chunky cables that couldn't plug into really anything.
Yeah.
So now with sort of the technology shift, MIDI is available in a lot, especially pianos. Like that's like the cheapest keyboard you can buy at Guitar Center. I think it's $120 or something.
Yeah.
It's got weighted keys. It's great little, I think it's a Casio. Yeah. And it has a cable that comes out the back. There's just a USB cord that sticks right into my computer. And that's it. I don't have to install drivers. I know for some people you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, but back in the day, MIDI was a lot more complicated. Now it's as simple as plug it in. And that's the end of the story. So because of that, you can plug your piano into your computer and a digital piano will show up on the screen, right?
Yes.
So you'll have the piano there for you to use. And then as you play your piano, the piano lights up on screen. The keys get pressed, they make a sound, and your students can see that happening in real time. Because
Right.
maybe,
So in
yeah,
practice, uh, you're the instructor or I'm the instructor. I'm playing my keyboard, which is like,
here, yeah, here, right?
here
Yeah.
at a complete 90-degree angle to my laptop screen or my computer screen. And unless I have an overhead camera
Right.
focusing on that, my student can't see my hands on my keyboard,
Yeah.
but plug in this MIDI cable and there's a visual display of the keyboard with lights that are lighting up
Yeah.
based on what I'm playing.
Absolutely. And that in itself is great. I mean, that alone, start there and you've got something fantastic.
But wait,
Now,
there's more.
right. Exactly. That's when we were like, where can you take this? Right.
Yes.
And so we did two things that made this possible. The first is, again, because of Hive and all this kind of experimenting and sort of answering your first question again of like, why now? Why build again?
Yeah.
We invented a new type of way of sending information from one computer to another. And it's kind of as crazy as it sounds. It's so fast that it's old MIDI was fast already. This
Hmm.
is orders of magnitude even faster. And so what that's allowing us to do now is what's called MIDI pass through. And so the crazy thing here is in a practical lesson, I, the teacher, plug in my piano. You, the student, you plug in your piano. When I play my piano, it goes through the computer into your cable and comes out the speakers of your piano,
Amazing.
right? And why this is so important is the audio quality. And I do not use this lightly because we can talk about like lagless and perfect audio and all that gimmicky stuff. I don't use this lightly. It is perfect audio quality. And the reason is because it's not audio being processed by a microphone and then going
Right.
to the other person. What's actually happening is when you click a key on your piano, it's sending instructions to the other person's piano and it's saying, "Hey, play that key." And
Yeah.
so it's actually playing the sound patch that's inside the piano that the other person has. So,
Like a trigger, right? So
yeah,
except that trigger is going from the instructor's keyboard
yeah,
to the student's speaker on their keyboard. So
yeah.
like the instructor is basically triggering the sound on the student's keyboard or vice versa.
Yeah, or vice versa. Yeah. Yeah, the best analogy would be like, imagine if you were in the same room and you could like plug two pianos into each other, right?
Hmm.
And like you play, but it comes out of the other person's piano, and then they
Yeah.
play, comes out of it. So just imagine that, but now you can be literally as far away as as you want. You can be
Yes.
10,000 miles apart. And because of the way we've created this transmission system, the lag is so insignificant. The question of can I play a duet with my student? The answer now is actually yes. And
Amazing.
and that to me is not only cool, but that is a fundamental change in how online music lessons can actually exist. And I
Yeah.
think it is the single biggest. Probably, and not to be like, "Hey, look how cool the thing I did is." Like, it's fundamentally gonna shift what online music lessons mean. And to me,
Yes.
that's just crazy exciting because it's the holy grail we've all been chasing for the
Hmm.
last 10 years.
Yeah.
And we finally now, I'm not saying that, like, if you're playing a trumpet, sorry, like,
Right.
you're still kind of
Yeah.
you're sort of still stuck with the old problems. This is exclusive to anything that is MIDI controlling. But I mean, it's not only awesome in practice, but I mean, it really is kind of the like, whoa, okay, like what can we now do with that? And
Yeah.
and you were the one who kind of
Oh, okay.
pointedly said to me, well,
Yes. Yeah. And this is what like so it's been a couple weeks since we talked about this,
yeah.
since you told me about
Mhm.
this function. And when we had that conversation, I said, "Sam, if this works on a keyboard, could it work on a digital drum set where the instructor has a digital drum set and the student has a digital drum set. And you were like, wow, that's an interesting question. Because if anyone who's ever done, if you lived through the pandemic and you were teaching, drum lessons were the biggest challenge. Like I was lucky that I had one instructor who would just kind of went all in on his drum set setup, and he had a series of like microphones on his kit and different camera angles.
Yeah.
So at least his setup for the student to view and hear was great. Now, then when the students started playing, he couldn't always hear. The drum lessons are the biggest challenge in the online setting. So it's been 2 weeks since I planted that seed. Where are we, Sam?
I need to come back and tell you.
Okay.
It works.
It works.
It works. So I'll show it to you, sometime soon, but it works. So the funny thing is, just as a quick aside, the thing I was waiting for to be able to test this is my dad, who also works at Muzie with me, was a professional drummer.
Yeah.
And he just moved. So his drum set, he has a Roland V drum set, an electric kit. It was all packed away in storage. So we were just I was like, when are you unpacking the drum set? So a few days ago, he finally got the thing unpacked and plugged in. And MIDI is MIDI. So that's like when we talked, my brain was like, well, yeah, I mean, there's no reason that it wouldn't work. And the logic is true. I mean, it's just MIDI data. So I'd say the only caveat with the drums is there's quite a few different ones, and they're not quite as universal as just having like a USB cable out the back. Most of the ones are, but there's still a lot of electric drum sets kicking around that have the old like 8-prong system.
Yes. So, well, I think mine at the studio, which is probably about 5 years old at this point, it still has that MIDI.
Right. So in that case, you'd need a converter. So you need something that can convert that to plug into your computer, which honestly, most people have already kind of done that. So it's not a huge ask or a huge overhaul. But yeah, I mean, fundamentally, it works. So the thing we'll be working on next is building out the UI so that one of the choices will be drum set, and you'll have a little you'll have a little drum set that pops up on the screen instead of a piano. And when you hit your snare drum, the snare drum lights up. And so importantly, it passes through and it plays the snare sound out of their drum set.
Okay, so functionally, I think the way that this works for like drum lessons, drum instructor, drum student, there's headphones involved.
Yes.
And there may be a little bit of a like kind of a setup challenge when it comes to splitting the audio signal from Muzie and the microphone so that we can talk, and then also the audio signal for the drum set, right?
Yeah.
But I'm assuming the drum instructor plays their snare on their side and it triggers the drum module for the student and they hear the snare trigger in their headphones?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So
amazing.
The cool thing is, because the trigger triggers both the virtual instrument on Muzie and the physical instrument that you have. If you are say you have your headphones plugged into your computer, the snare sound you're gonna hear is just the snare sound off the Muzie instrument.
Okay.
So it actually is okay. Now, if you've got a very specific drum setting sound profile or something, then sure, it's going to sound different. But it's more like how the MIDI piano works. It's kind of the same situation there, because with the MIDI piano, this applies to both, but I think this will be kind of an easier visual, is if I've got my piano here and the audio is coming out of the speakers of my piano, I don't also want it coming out of the MIDI instrument on the screen, because then you're going to have a doubling. So there's literally just a mute button on the instrument, on the virtual instrument on the Muzie. So you can just mute that one and then only hear it coming out of your piano. or vice versa. You can have it, you can mute the piano and just hear it coming out of the instrument. So it just depends on how you want to do it. Now, the best version is you mute the one on Muzie and you have it come out of your speakers, because
Sure.
that's sort of the point, is that's the perfect audio quality.
Yeah.
Um, so there will be, drums are always a little bit trickier. And any drummer or any drum teacher listening knows that, previously you needed an interface, 10 microphones, 3 cameras, 4 different
Yeah.
ring lights, and, a high powered computer to process all of it.
Yeah.
Now you can get away with just plug your MIDI into the thing, have your student do the same. And the cool thing too is, like, yeah, you'll have to figure out like where to put stuff, but if you're sitting at a drum set and you have your laptop maybe like over the hi-hat or like kind of over by the ride, or wherever you put it, it's still gonna light up the drum that's being hit.
Yeah.
So if you see, like, if you hear a cymbal, right? So you got your headphones plugged into your drum set and you hear a cymbal. If you're not 100% sure which one, you can just look at the visual and it will, light up which cymbal is being hit on the display. So those two pieces of information coming in together is where this becomes a game changer, because it's almost like old school drum lessons where you even have two drum kits sat next to each other,
Yeah.
and you can see someone hitting a snare drum, and then
Right.
you replicate the action on your end. Now you can do it
This
anywhere in the world.
this is huge in my opinion. And am I getting an exclusive on this, by the way? Are you the
Yes,
first?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, it was your idea. So
I was just curious if this is the first time you're
yeah,
talking about it.
yeah,
Our friend Danny Thompson is
yeah.
going to want to know
Gonna
about
go
this for
crazy
sure.
on this one.
That is like that alone. I mean, the MIDI function of the keyboard is huge, but like this thing with the drums, in my opinion, is
Yeah.
such a big deal only because I've lived through that struggle of like, God, how? Okay, so maybe another practical application that is sort of piquing my interest and I didn't really think about until now. What about these modern guitar pedals, these modeling pedals? Most of them have USB outs for creating. Any reason why? I mean, I guess it would have to have like a MIDI function, right?
Yeah, if it had a MIDI function, then
I'm not familiar enough with the pedals. I don't use
yeah,
them
I'd
myself.
I'd
So
say it still stipulates around MIDI. MIDI is still like the core thing.
yeah.
So if it could do something in that world, yes. Now, like, even though I know as guitar players, there's always a little bit of aversion to these products, but like the fretlight guitar,
Yeah.
is like a guitar where there's literally lights on the fretboard and
Sure.
they light up. Usually, what happens is you plug it into your computer and you have some kind of like almost like a Guitar Hero esque interface,
Right.
and it like lights up the notes and you just kind of follow the lights, cool, you're playing a guitar. Theoretically, though, if I had a fretlight guitar, you had a fretlight guitar, as I play my guitar, you'd pass the MIDI data straight through and the lights on your guitar would light up as I play them.
Yeah.
So that's the cool thing about MIDI, is it's a universal protocol. So it's a universal system, and a lot of music stuff revolves around it. And now I'm thinking it out loud, like drum packs are MIDI systems. The where they've got all the little squares and
Yeah.
those light
Trigger
up.
pads. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
don't see why you couldn't have two trigger pads connected to each other that do the same thing. And one just fun example I give people to really kind of explain how this all works is, when you go in the airport or like a shopping mall and you see the player piano,
Yeah.
it's like usually a grand piano, but the keys are all moving on its own.
Yes.
Typically what that is there's like a pre-recorded MIDI roll inside, and they just pick a song and it sends the MIDI data to the piano and it plays it. Theoretically, you could connect these two together and there could be an actual pianist at home playing, and it be playing the piano in the airport.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so like, that's just like another fun way of thinking about what this can do. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of the sky's the limit at this point, because and I mean it's genuine, we don't know. We don't know what people are gonna do and what they're gonna come up with. I mean, like, even just chatting with you, the drums was like a oh yeah, duh. Like, you, you know? So we'll probably meet people and teachers that are doing things that we would never have conceived of. But really, the fundamental thing is if it uses MIDI, then the answer is probably yes.
Yeah, it's so cool. So
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, I absolutely love that. I think this is going to be one that, like, man, drum instructors who have ever taught online or are still teaching online, this is huge for
yeah.
them. So, okay, to start bringing this one home, how can people check out the new Muzie?
Yeah, so probably by the time everyone hears this, we'll either have just released the new Muzie or be really close. So in the meantime, if we're still at that really close phase, we do have sort of a beta program open. And if people are interested in coming in early and taking a look and poking around, you reach out to me directly, just sam@muzie.live, and I can get you access into the beta, and you can go in and see everything that we're talking about. And all of it works. I mean, it's we're right at that finish line.
Yeah.
We're just it's cleanup time now. We're just
Uh-huh.
kind of tying all the laces together to make sure it's polished. But I'd say it's going to just be a couple of weeks before this rolls and people are actually actively using it. So you'll know that it's the new thing because, and this is just like a silly thing, but our website right now is all white with kind of fun cartoony styles. When that switches to a dark website with like a and it's like a black and the logo, if you see a purple and orange logo, you're on the old Muzie. If you see
Yeah.
a pink and blue logo, you're on the new
Okay.
Muzie.
All right.
We changed the logo and added just some new branding around the whole platform. So if you see the purple and orange, that's old. Pink and blue, that's new. So
Got it. Got
you'll
it.
know where you're at. But we're
Awesome.
really easy to reach out to too. So, like I said, I am very hands-on. So if you email me and just ask me, I can point you in the right direction too.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Sam, always a pleasure talking. This is really exciting stuff. Congratulations on everything you've done with it and what's to come in the future. And thanks again for joining me on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me for the third time.
Yeah. All right. All right, Sam. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.
If you have topic suggestions or questions, please contact us at info@rockschoolproprietor.com. We'd love to hear from you and hear suggestions for future shows. We've put together some free resources for teachers and studio owners over at rockschoolproprietor.com and a private Facebook group called The Modern Music School. Please join us over there. On social, I'm at rock.school.proprietor on Instagram and John Kazicki on both LinkedIn and Blue Sky. Your ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify are always appreciated. And if you enjoyed the show and gain insight from our conversation, then we count that as a win. All we ask in return is that you pay it forward and please share the show with someone you think needs to hear it.